All right, let's get right into it. You've definitely heard the term full stack developer. It's everywhere in the tech world. It conjures up this image of a coding wizard, a sort of superhero who can build an entire application from start to finish all by themselves. But what if that superhero is actually a myth?
So let's ask the question, what is a full stack developer really? On paper, it's someone who's an expert in every single piece of the puzzle. The user interface you see on your screen, the server logic running in the background, the database holding all the information, the whole shebang. Sounds amazing, right? But the reality, well, it's a lot more complicated than that.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. The truth is, modern web development is just staggeringly complex. Think about it. New programming languages, new frameworks, new tools, they pop up constantly. It's moving at lightning speed. To expect one single person to be a master of all of it, it's just not realistic. The real power, the real magic, doesn't come from one person. It comes from a great team.
So what's the solution? Well, it's building a team of what we call specializing generalists. You might have heard of them as T-shaped people. Imagine the letter T. The deep, vertical part of the T is their core specialty, the one thing they are really good at. But the wide, horizontal bar at the top, that's their broad knowledge of how everything else works. And that overlap, that shared understanding, is the secret sauce. It's what allows a team to communicate, to adapt, and to be way more effective than any lone superhero could ever hope to be. Okay, so how does a team like this actually get work done? How do you take a huge, ambitious idea and break it down into something you can actually build? It all starts with the blueprint, the plan.
And very often, the core of that plan is something called a user story. Forget those giant 100-page technical documents nobody reads. A user story is simple, it's short, and most importantly, it frames every single task from a human perspective. It's the basic building block that keeps the entire team focused on what actually matters, the person who will be using the product.
And the format is just brilliant in its simplicity. As a user, I want some goal so that I get some benefit. This structure is so powerful because it forces you to answer three crucial questions. Who are we building this for? What do they want to do? And, the most important one, why do they want to do it? It makes sure that every line of code is tied directly to creating real, tangible value for someone.
So, how do you know if you've got a good user story? Well, a lot of teams use this handy little acronym, INVEST. A great story should be I-independent, so you can work on it without waiting for something else. It should be negotiable. It's a conversation starter, not a strict contract. It has to be valuable to the user, obviously, estimatable, so the team has a rough idea of how much work it is, small enough to get done in a short amount of time, and finally, testable, so you know for sure when you're finished. It's a fantastic checklist to keep things moving.
All right, with a clear plan made up of good user stories, the team can finally start building. And you might notice a theme here, because just like in planning, the absolute center of the universe is the user experience, or UX. You know, this is such a key insight. It's easy to think that UX is just about making things look pretty, choosing nice colors and cool fonts, but that's not at all. Real UX is about architecture. It's about psychology. Is the app intuitive? Can someone figure out how to use it without a manual? Because if your users are confused and frustrated, it doesn't matter how beautiful it is. Functionality has to come first.
And a big part of that functionality is knowing what you're building in the first place. Is it a website or a web app? They sound similar, but they're fundamentally different. A website, think of a news site, is all about presenting content across lots of different pages. A web app, like Google Docs, is all about functionality and interaction, often happening on a single dynamic page. Making this choice upfront decides which tools, technologies, and approaches the team is going to use.
And those tools and technologies make up the stack. We can basically split the stack into two major parts. You've got the front end, which is everything you see and interact with in your web browser. It's the tip of the iceberg. Then you've got the back end. That's the huge, invisible part of the iceberg underneath the water. It's the servers, the databases, and all the complex logic that makes everything actually work. A great team knows how to build both.
So, building something that works is one thing, but it's not enough. You also have to build something that's secure. In a world of nonstop cyber threats, how does a team actually protect the application, and more importantly, its users?
Well, it turns out there's a simple but incredibly powerful mantra that guides almost all good security practices. Any ideas what it might be?
And here it is. This is the golden rule. Validate on input, sanitize on output. Let's break that down because it's so important.
Validate on input means you never, ever trust data that comes from the outside world. You check it, you question it, you make sure it's in the format you expect. Then, sanitize on output means that before you ever display data back to a user, you clean it up so it can't be executed as malicious code. If you forget this, someone could post a seemingly harmless comment that ends up stealing the account information of everyone else who views it. This one rule is the absolute foundation of web security.
So, the app is built, it's secure. Now for the moment of truth. It's time to get it into the hands of users and, just as importantly, make sure it stays up and running.
This is where a philosophy called DevOps comes in, and it's a game changer. The old way was for developers to build the code and then just kind of throw it over a wall to an operations team to run it. DevOps tears that wall down. It's a culture where the same team that writes the code is also responsible for deploying it, monitoring it, and yes, fixing it when it breaks at 3 in the morning. It's about total end-to-end ownership, and it leads to much more reliable software.
And all of this brings us to our conclusion. Because being a part of a modern development team is about so much more than just writing code. It's about a professional mindset, a shared ethos, and a deep sense of responsibility.
We hear this analogy all the time, right? That user data is the new oil, mainly because it can be incredibly valuable.
But the analogy goes deeper, and it has a much darker side. Because, like crude oil, raw user data is also toxic. It's a liability. If you mishandle it, if it gets spilled in a data breach, it can cause incredible damage to people's lives. This puts a huge ethical weight on every single developer. The question isn't just, can we collect this data, but should we? And if we do, how are we going to protect it?
So when you boil it all down, the ethos of a modern development team really rests on 3 pillars. First, craftsmanship. Always try to leave the code a little better than you found it. Second, humility and curiosity. Embrace the fact that you have to be a lifelong learner in a field that changes every day. And third, and maybe most importantly, a deep understanding of the ethical implications of your work. Which leaves us with one final big question. That old line from a comic book has never felt more true. Technology gives developers immense power to shape our world and our lives. So as they build this digital world all around us, what is their ultimate responsibility to the rest of us?